welcome again to our 35th year of Walk Boston, Walk Massachusetts. And I want to again just there wasn't enough chance for my fellow board members to get recognition. Please give them an applause. They are very much a working board. But I also want to give special thanks to, we have 3 board members who are, one of them is still here, I think, tonight, who are leaving the board after many years of service. Emma Yasser, who is a former president of the board, Paula Gold, and Carol Steinberg. So thank you. We also have a terrific staff who you're all going to hear from very soon. My additional thanks go to all of you who are our supporters and our corporate supporters for appreciating the health, environmental, and overall quality of life value of walking and the difference Walk Massachusetts is making in making Massachusetts more walkable, including Western Mass, where I live in Springfield. You may be wondering if Walk Massachusetts is being affected by what is happening to our federal government. In fact, we are a subrecipient to 2 federal grants previously thought of as some of our more stable funding options. So we ask that all of you here with us this evening, in person and virtually, will help us this evening and ensure we have the financial resources to keep our work moving forward. Use the QR codes where are they? Around on some of the tables, or talk to Emma over here. And those of you at home, the QR code will be shown throughout the program. But now, without further ado, I want to turn the program over to our wonderful leader, Brendan Kearney.
Thank you, Betsy. That was a hot mic. Thanks for trying that out. That's great. Let's make sure we're looking here. Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here. I love this space. I feel that it works well for a small group, works well for a big group, and it just feels nice and homey. So thanks for being here, and thank you. Everyone give Tommy a round of applause. Thanks, Tommy. Fantastic. So, Betsy mentioned Walk Massachusetts celebrates our 35th year as an organization this year. We're continually inspired when we hear from residents and elected officials who are seeking advice on how to make their streets safer. I do want to show, thanking all our sponsors and donors that help us throughout the year. These are really the people that keep the lights on at Walk Massachusetts. So big thank you to all of our sponsors who, help us help people all across the state. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Also, folks, people here in the room or watching the live stream are people that are willing to step up and do the work of making walking safer in their communities. From Beverly to Brockton, communities are organizing walk audits. They're documenting unsafe conditions and calling for action. This next photo is actually a photo from one of our youngest participants in a walk audit earlier this year, walk audit training up in Beverly. They were, capturing the speeds of vehicles near a crosswalk that we felt was unsafe. So, young and old alike can get on the streets and make walk audits happen. I also want to echo the thanks that Betsy had for our board, for bringing different skills, expertise, and their connections while contributing volunteer hours and financial support. Thanks also to our committee volunteers as well. In the coming months, I've already talked to a couple folks about working with you of thinking through what meaningful volunteering means to you, and structure our committees and board work to be flexible and responsive to the demands of people who have a 9-to-5 job but still want to get involved in an organization. Being on a board doesn't have to be a full-time job. It shouldn't be. We have staff. You're raising money to make sure staff can do that work. So we want to make sure that people can still be involved in a meaningful way. We also plan to dig in more in the coming months on how to put into practice our strategic plan. How can we be a better resource to people and organizations in communities across the state? Give it up for our staff. You'll hear from them in a little bit, but they've really grown more in their roles over the last year, bringing even more impact to our work. I just need to share my sincere gratitude for all of their work. Emma, thank you. Yolanda, thank you. Johnny, thank you. Emma has really led the effort to grow Walk Massachusetts walking fundraiser each November, Beat the Bay State, which had nearly 700 participants this past November. We thought that was just going to be a one-off during COVID. And then people said, you're doing this next year, right? And we were like, yeah, of course we're doing it next year. And 5 years later, we kept doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. We're very excited to have a reason to encourage people to get out when it's getting a little cold. It's getting a little dark. You have to beat your neighbor in the number of miles you're tracking. It's wonderful. We encourage you to create a team if you have not done it before. Or there's probably someone in here who's recruiting to join their team because they want to beat other people. So make sure to say hello to Emma and set up a time where you can discuss how your organization can be a corporate sponsor of Beat the Bay State, or how to set yourself up with a recurring contribution to support our work. Johnny Gomez Pereira remains deeply engaged in leveraging his bilingual grassroots community organizing experience in his home communities of Chelsea and East Boston. He'll share more in a few moments, so I'm not going to steal all his thunder. And just wanted to give Yolanda a shout out for leading the Brockton Walk Audit Academy and expanding walk audits funded through a new grant we got this year from the Massachusetts Office of Grants and Research. They almost didn't know how to give money to a nonprofit organization. We had to fill out so much paperwork that was about police overtime. So we're very excited that they found a way and that we're able to provide walk audits in a community that has suffered disproportionately in traffic fatalities. So we're excited to work with more community members. Johnny's bilingual skills are going to come into play in there as well, as we're working with more non-English speaking folks and community groups. That's not the only thing Yolanda does. He's also been working with furthering our mission with deeper engagement in Worcester through the Prevention Research Center. I saw Karen's here. Thanks, Karen. Working in Worcester there. And also with the Transportation for Massachusetts Policy Distillery team. Shout out to the Tea for Mass team this year. Hi, Reggie. So, yeah, give a round of applause for Tea for Mass. Absolutely. Raylan's here too. Thanks. Johnny and Yolanda also helped create our first round of engagement in both East Boston and Mattapan through the City of Boston's CDC Racial and Ethnic Approaches to Community Health, the REACH grant, in conjunction with the Boston Public Health Commission. I think there's some folks here from that too. I think I saw Mary somewhere. Oh, and there's a team. Yeah. Hi, guys. Yeah. Great to see you. Another thing is, the work in each neighborhood is different. It's not one size fits all. And Johnny has done great work with Boston Public Health Commission staff and Mattapan Food and Fitness and Neighbor Health, formerly known as East Boston Neighborhood Health Center, to work at a pace that's really comfortable for community members to have trusting relationships. Next up, I'm honored that our organization is able to continue to work on important policy topics that impact people walking and the importance of increasing funding for transportation across Massachusetts. Just today, MassDOT convened a micromobility commission, and that started their work. Walk Massachusetts and Mass Bike. I know Galen's here somewhere. Mass Bike. Give it up for Galen. So, that just started their work. Walk Massachusetts and Mass Bike were both written into the legislation that created it. Thank you also to board member Stephanie Seskin, who's tuning in remotely, who will be speaking up for pedestrians and helping to create a framework that both helps to regulate what's on our streets and sidewalks right now, but also thinking forward. Like how do we make sure that we're responsive to what's next? delivery robots. Hate that. And make sure that innovation is pursued hand in hand with safety. We don't need to just say no to everything, but we should have some frameworks about what we want out on the streets. Also, the 4th edition of our annual crash report was published last week, which ended up very busy week in the world. In case you turned off all news alerts, I'm going to share some of the details. The report does feature some sections that are connected to the work we do each and every day. This report continues to allow us to identify problems and highlight key themes that we're seeing from crash data and inform recommendations to move forward together to fix these problems. This map shows the locations where 78 people were hit and killed in vehicle crashes in 2024. That is in 53 communities across the state, places big and small. That was 21% of all the fatal crash deaths on our roadways in Massachusetts. 7 out of 10 of them, 70.5%, happened on local streets. So that means the communities have control of what these roads look like and feel like. So we can make a difference here. This next map, I also need to take a step back and thank one of our board members, Sumita Srinivasan, for her GIS work, helping me create these maps. What took me the first year, probably, I'm not going to say how long it took. Took her probably 15 minutes. So imagine that, being a skilled professor at Tufts in GIS. It can be quick to do that. So also need to give Tracy Zafian a big shout out as well for her tireless help throughout the year, helping me put together some of the crash work. And so big round of applause for Sumita and Tracy on that. So, this second map, which is a little blurry here, but if you go on our website, you can see the interactive one that Sumita did a great job with. This shows environmental justice census block groups. 2 out of every 3 of the fatal pedestrian crashes in 2024 took place in those census block groups. So environmental justice is pretty simple. It's the principle all people have a right to be protected from environmental hazards and to live in and enjoy a clean, healthy environment. Full stop. Like, that should be something we should all strive for and we should all be supportive of. A change in priorities at the federal level does not change what the data say. It's skewed here in Massachusetts. We're not the only place. It's skewed across the country. But this demonstrates that EJ communities do face disproportionate harm, a large part because of historic and present day injustices in transportation and transportation planning. I'm super grateful that regional Vision Zero planning efforts are still ongoing. Thank you to Ali Clayman and the whole team at the Boston Region MPO and others at regional planning agencies across the state who are continuing this important work despite all the challenges and potential for losing federal funding. So big round of applause for those folks that are continuing to do that. Another thing that we focused on the last couple of years is age-friendly work, and this is why. Older adult pedestrians were hit and killed at a higher rate than those in other age groups. Again, 37.2% of the pedestrian fatal crash victims were 65 or older, while this age group represents about 18.5% of the population here in Massachusetts. And just to zoom out a bit, nationwide, 18.5% of the fatal pedestrian crash victims were age 65 plus. So we're a bit of an outlier here. The good thing I'll say is throughout the rest of 2025, we're partnering with AARP Massachusetts to lead a series of webinars to their audience on walking and walkability. The dates, I believe, are listed in the program. We'll also send it out afterwards. The first is going to be next week. Big thank you to Antron Watson for his steadfast belief in walkable communities and the power of walk audits to give community members a voice. So big round of applause for AARP Massachusetts. They're doing great work. So, and additionally, the Massachusetts Healthy Aging Collaborative is, they've been working on this a lot. They're issuing updated healthy aging data report in 2025 in May. That was last updated in 2018. That includes profiles on communities all across the state, underscoring the importance of age-friendly efforts, including walking and safe streets for all. So thank you to Beth Dugan from UMass Boston and James Fuccione from Massachusetts Healthy Aging Collaborative for the tireless work on this effort. Very important. So one thing that we heard at our WalkMass Network preview of our crash report was, what about the drivers? Who were the people driving in these crashes that hit and killed people? We need to know more about them. So yes, we do. We wanted to know, how old were the people behind the wheel? Drivers aged 25 to 34 made up 17.9% of those crashes, and drivers aged 65 to 74 also were 17.9%. They were each involved in at least 14 of those crashes. 10 of the incidents involving drivers 65 plus, the person the driver struck was also 65 plus. So there's a focus on driver training for younger drivers. When people are first learning to drive and receive a license, there's additional educational outreach and education that's needed for all the rest of us. I'm 42. I got my license when I was 16. The roads are a lot different. A lot different. Yes, vehicles are also much bigger. We'll get to that. So there's also a golden shoe about that. So, we really think that, there's opportunity here for, as we've moved to more electronic renewing of licenses, we should think of another way to be educating drivers as part of that renewal process. I used to coach high school cross country and track. I had to go through a concussion protocol, electronic training every single season. The technology's out there. We got to catch up. This also might seem in the weeds, but you are here to support a pedestrian advocacy organization, so I figure it's okay sharing. There's a new definition, a person on a personal conveyance, in MassDOT's crash data portal to reflect some national guidance. Personal conveyance is a big catch-all category. But this past year, it's scooters, it's inline skates, it's lots of things. Motorized, non-motorized wheelchairs. That's the thing I want to talk about right now, because motorized and non-motorized wheelchairs made up the majority of the fatal crashes in this category this past year. So we can't just say, okay, personal conveyance, it's over there. It used to be part of the pedestrian category. This is a good thing that this is getting split out. So now we can be, it's not hidden in the pedestrian category. We can actually learn a little bit more about it. But we're going to need to take a closer look at each of those crashes. So 5 of the 8 fatalities in this category were people using motorized or non-motorized wheelchairs or mobility scooters. 3 of the 5 were age 70 plus. The other 2 were in their 30s and 50s. So the reason I'm highlighting this is a great photo from this fall, a walk audit that was co-led by Boston Center for Independent Living, us, and Mass Bike as part of the MassDOT's Moving Together conference, which included participants from the Riders Transportation Access Group, and they were sharing their perspective on what they were encountering along the route. That included, experiencing sections of Mass Ave in Boston near Lyric, which is another one of our Golden Shoe winners this evening. But this was great because people were able to hear from folks that used a white cane to get around, hear from folks that used a wheelchair to get around. And a lot of the times, people didn't know how they moved around the world and how they used curb ramps and what it meant to actually have a separated bike lane and then another place that they had to cross before getting to traffic. So definitely important to be able to hear user feedback and change things going forward. So we're also very excited to be working with T for Mass and Boston Center for Independent Living and Mass Bike going forward, looking more at these shared spaces. Like, there's limited room on the road. How do we make it so it works out for everybody? So we're very excited to continue that work. We heard about driver age, but what vehicles were they operating? This is one reason why we're honoring the direct vision study that MassDOT and Volpe Center took on this past year with a golden shoe this evening. So big round of applause for MassDOT and Volpe for the work they've been doing. So, in 2024, fatal crashes, over half of them were passenger cars, but 38.7 were light trucks. Both of these are light trucks. Yeah. On the right, that's a 2011 Ford Ranger. On the left, that's a 2018 Ford F-250. So even the same company. This is me looking a little perturbed. I'm 6'3". Like it's a stark difference. But right now in the data, that's the same vehicle. So, luckily, act to reduce traffic fatalities, I'm going to let that keep rolling. The act to reduce traffic fatalities requires make and model of vehicles involved in crashes with vulnerable road users to be made publicly available starting in 2024. When we looked at that data, the field is still lacking. More often it's filled out when it's vehicle-to-vehicle crashes and not vehicle-pedestrian crashes, when that really seems to be something we should be looking for. I kind of want to go back to that slide. I love that. So this photo is from a tabling event in East Boston this summer. More folks are looking at what's happening on the federal level and want to get more involved locally. We'd encourage you to invite elected officials or candidates for office to take part in a walk audit in your neighborhood. So what would that look like? Residents in Beverly worked with us to organize a one-day walk audit academy training earlier this year. And they invited folks from surrounding North Shore communities to take part as well. A walk audit can really help identify places that need short-term action for safety changes while sketching out a longer-term vision for improvements or funding. So big shout out to Carl, John, and the rest of the team up in Beverly that are leading walk audits in each neighborhood in Beverly with whoever's the area's city councilor to get buy-in before the next budget discussion and also in advance of this fall's election season. The folks in Beverly went through all the materials they found on our website about Walk Audit Academy on how to lead a walk audit, got really excited about it, and reached out to learn more and offered to set up a training with people from surrounding communities. Yes, please. This is incredible. Be a Beverly. You can always book time on my calendar on Fridays directly from our staff page. We'd love to see how we can offer advice or help. Since that Beverly training, I now owe multiple people who attended emails back to see how we can further work together. This is a great problem to have. Just don't look at my unread messages in my inbox. Lastly, Betsy mentioned this earlier, but as a subrecipient of federal funds, once considered a stable funding source, we recognize that a portion of our budget is at risk and our funding is at risk due to federal uncertainty. Over the last few years, in addition to the CDC REACH grant, we've been a proud partner with Boston Medical Center and now Tufts Medical Center, because the researcher moved, on a grant from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, working on walkability in and around Boston public housing developments. And I will be completely honest, I had to rewrite these comments multiple times due to the changes and uncertainty. If funding could be completely different or gone tomorrow, I ended up rewriting the whole thing this morning. But what is not changing is our steadfast mission to support people in communities across Massachusetts who are looking to make a difference on street safety for pedestrians. So today we're asking you to help us ensure these programs and all the work we do in communities across the state is able to continue uninterrupted. We hope you'll ensure that we have the financial resources to keep our work moving forward. Your support allows us to continue advocating for safe, accessible, and equitable walking environments for all. Thanks so much.
Let's give it up for all the hard work of Walk Massachusetts. I get a little teary-eyed, so I'm gonna try not to do that today. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is May Vaughn, and I'm on the board of Walk Massachusetts. I'll tell you, I know I only have 2 minutes. I know we're a little bit behind schedule, but I'll tell you a little bit about why I wanted to join the board. When I saw all the work, first of all, I live in Roxbury. I'm born and raised. I'm almost 50, so I'll say 50 years. And all the great work that they were doing in Boston. And then to hear a couple of years ago that they were now Walk Massachusetts and they were going to replicate, hopefully, all that work in the state of Massachusetts. And I'm so happy to hear all the highlights. Not that I don't hear them in the board meetings, but to hear them in one setting is so super exciting. So I'm here again to ask you And thank you, previous donors, current donors, to continue to donate. We don't know, like Brendan said, what the landscape for us is going to look like in the next couple of years and months. And we ask for your support so we can continue this work. We can continue the work in Brockton. We can continue the work in Springfield, Pittsfield. Make Massachusetts the safest pedestrian state in the United States. Wouldn't that be fabulous? So the QR code is there. Your phone should work. You should be able to take a picture of it and donate tonight. Ask folks who are online as well to do the same thing. We need you. We need you now, and we're going to need you for the next 35 years. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you. And hopefully, we'll see you again in the next 35 years. Thank you so much. Donate tonight, donate today. Thank you.
Gonna lower this a bit so we can not have the mic in everyone's face.
Was I too loud? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I wanted to make sure we could get a great photo of you. So now it might not work for me. Great, thank you so much for that, May. This is now my favorite point of the evening. We're gonna do 1 minute, one slide. So I'd like to invite Yolanda, Johnny, and Emma up. Come on up, Johnny, don't be shy. This is only gonna last 4 minutes. So, we started 1 minute, one slide segment a few years ago as a way to share more about programs we're doing, pass the mic to other staff members, and challenge us to be concise. We will each have one slide and 1 minute to share about that topic. So we are going to dive right in. Who's going to be timekeeper? So, great. May is going to be our timekeeper. May, feel free to be ruthless. So, or if he's really close, be like, I'm going to not hit stop yet. Okay. So first up, Yolanda Spinall.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Yolando. So one thing I want to share with you all is that we're announcing and we're going to be presenting about the Walk Audit Database. It's a new resource that we're making available. We've collected so much data. We've done all these walk audits throughout the state, but we didn't have it in one place. It's just kind of scattered throughout our website. And we know that people are doing walk audits in their own community. So we wanted to create basically a database, one place that you can go and find all these different walk audits that we've conducted in the past and that people are conducting throughout throughout the state in their own municipalities. So this is going to be a resource where you can go and you can upload or you can share the walk audits that you're conducting in your own municipalities. And then we are going to look over them and make sure they have all the key items that people need. And then they're going to live on this walk audit database. So I'm going to be presenting about this on April 16th at our Walk Massachusetts network meeting. So if you want to learn more, join us on April 16th online.
Thank you.
He set the standard there.
That was right
That was
on.
59
right
and a half seconds or so. So impressive. All right, next up, Johnny.
Hi everyone, my name is Johnny. I'm going to be sharing a little bit in terms of updates that I've had professionally. So this year I was able to present.
Keeps cutting in and out.
So this year, alongside carrying out some of the programmatic work that Brendan mentioned, including the Boston Children's Hospital grant, REACH grant, and the NIH grant, I had the opportunity to engage in furthering my professional development. That work has included presenting at the BARI conference last April. So you'll see a picture of that on the bottom left, just their sort of logo. So during that, I was able to present a small presentation called Developing Equitable Civic Engagement, Caminatas Verdes y Seguras. So this is part of a collaboration with Keynote, who does great work. They're not here today, but they're a great organization, environmental justice work based in Chelsea and East Boston. And I was underscoring the importance of civically engaged planning practices with the goal of democratizing city planning. Later that year, I was able to present at the US DOT ASEAN Smart Mobility Conference. Oh, sorry, I'm going. Right, I was talking about activating public spaces for walkability. So I was presenting alongside a couple of other folks that might be in the room today. And the other thing that I'll mention is that I was selected as a NACTO Transportation Justice Fellow, so I'm participating in this fellowship among a cohort of 11 other fellows who are seeking to operationalize equity in the transportation space. The last thing I will share is that we were able to conduct our first Spanish community walk in East Boston, which is really nice. I'm hoping to sort of cement language justice within our organization, just because we know that the communities that are most impacted are EJ communities, and one of those qualifications are folks that experience language isolation. So folks that participated were able to hear directly from East Boston residents on the impacts of environmental justice, housing, climate change, and its intersection with transportation. So that was really fulfilling, and I hope to see you guys this year. Thank you.
Yolanda said this. Johnny had a lot to share. There was a lot to share. So
We did a lot this year.
we did a lot. So
Not one.
next up, Emma.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emma. I am the Development Communication Coordinator for WalkMass. Just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. I could definitely read off and let you know about the upcoming network meetings that we have, but number one, I'm going to remind everybody to follow us on social media. Number two, I'm going to remind everybody, if they can tonight, to donate. I have been pushing for the past 2 or 3 weeks for a campaign for a $35 donation. Or if you want to be incredibly spicy, you can donate around $30 a month to be around $350 for the entire month as a monthly membership. As Yolanda mentioned, him and Allie, who was our January internship, they'll be presenting in April. Secondly, we will also be having another one about traffic fatalities in May. And then additionally, the last one, I believe, will be more about incorporating local relationships. Is that it? All right, there we go. Thank you, guys.
Perfect. All right, and I get to do the last 1 minute, one slide. We'd love you to save the date to join us on Tuesday, May 27th for this year's Bob Sloan Walk. Bob was a co-founder of Walk Boston and passed away in May 2021. True pioneer in walking advocacy and a pillar of our organization. We honor his legacy by hosting a walk each year in his name. We'll be looking at changes in or around the Charles River Basin near North Station. There's been a lot happening in this pocket of the city since we last led a walk here back in 2017. Including the newly opened Bill Russell Bridge, formerly known as the North Washington Street Bridge, and the potential for a new Draw 1 bridge into North Station that is currently missing a pedestrian connection at the moment. Want to help shape this walk? Consider joining our events committee. Linda Sharp is the chair. Where's Linda? There's Linda. So get in touch with Linda. So more to come on that. Thank you so much. And that is 1 minute, one slide. So we hope to join you again here next year for that. So now the meat of the evening, our Golden Shoe Awards. We present Golden Shoe Awards at this meeting each year to celebrate and reward those who have bettered the walking environment and who exemplify the ideals that guide Walk Massachusetts. Golden Shoes are awarded to individuals, agencies, municipalities, companies, projects. If you have a nomination for a future Golden Shoe winner, send us a note. How this is going to work, I'm going to invite different groups up. Someone will introduce them and say why they're getting the award. And then one person from each group is welcome to, say a few words and then take a photo. Please do not speak as long as the glorious Fred Salvucci did a couple of years ago. It is way shorter than Johnny. So we'd love you to talk a little bit about why your project means something to you and why this is an award for you. So first up, the team from Samuels and Associates for the Lyric Project. And I'm going to invite Sharvi Jain, board member, to say a few words.
I'm a little short for this. Okay, so, my name is Sharvi Jain, and I'm here to introduce Samuels and Associates for their project Lyric. Lyric Back Bay is a transformative air rights project over the Mass Pike and MBTA railways, the largest of its kind in Boston in over 40 years. Formerly known as Parcel 12, it has turned unused space into a vibrant gateway to Newbury Street. The project involved building a platform over the highway, adjusting the Mass Pike on-ramp to simplify the Newbury Street and Mass Ave intersection, and modifying the MBTA Heinz Green Line station entrance by adding an entrance in the new plaza. This complex engineering feat took over a decade of planning and collaboration. Designed with placemaking in mind, the building preserves sunset views and improves pedestrian vehicle safety at the Massav Pike entrance. Despite remote work trends, Samuels and Associates and developer Steve Samuels see Lyric as proof that well-planned developments can thrive. With office, retail, hospitality, and public space, it sets a new standard for air rights projects in Boston. Congratulations to the team.
I'm accepting on their behalf. So, but congrats to the team. We had multiple people. Oh, there's Greg. Okay. I didn't know where you were. So come on up. Yeah. Congratulations. So would you like to do a photo over here? So, yeah. Hey, great. Yeah. Yeah, we'll take one later if you guys want to say anything. Sure.
All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. No, this is great. We talk about Lyric always being essentially a transportation project with some real estate above it. This is a private-public partnership with MassDOT, with the city of Boston, with the Back Bay neighborhood, that all very much influenced the design and really kept it focused on the ground level and built up from there. The project started as trying to fill in space above a highway, relocating a highway on-ramp that was very much focused on creating a safer intersection at Mass Ave and Newbury, where there were numbers of fatalities while we were planning it. And we were able to shorten the walks, move the on-ramp further down to avoid those conflicts. The whole plaza stemmed from an idea of being able to maintain sunset views, find a place where you could walk up, grab a coffee, sit, stay a while, stroll. So it's really transformed this side of Newbury Street, really created a loop between from the Commons all the way down Newbury, back up Boylston. So it's really a proud moment for all of us. We hope you guys can get out there throughout the summer. New retailers are going to be opening. It's going to really feel alive, and it's something we're all very proud of. So thank you very much.
So fantastic. I'd love to invite the group from the Direct Vision Study to come on up. So, I showed images earlier about light trucks and the size differences, but our next Golden Shoe winner looked at even bigger vehicles on our roadways, heavy duty trucks and fleet vehicles. So a study by MassDOT found many vehicles have significant blind spots, making it difficult for drivers to notice vulnerable road users. Study found that half of the heavy duty trucks fail to provide direct visibility of a child in a crosswalk, while 90% can't see a child in a bike lane. This was in partnership with the John Volpe National Transportation System Center. The research assessed visibility from 60 vehicle types across MassDOT in 9 cities, including Boston. This was a big scope. That's pretty impressive. The findings highlight significant visibility disparities among these vehicle classes. Some heavy-duty trucks can see a child at 3 feet. Others have blind spots exceeding 10 feet. Additionally, nearly all tested medium-duty trucks, such as the Ford F-350 and Ford F-450, and those also had limited visibility. Congrats to the team from Volpe Center and MassDOT who took part in this effort, including Alex, Chris, and Caitlin. I have a Volpe MassDOT. Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we had to arm wrestle or whatever we did to decide who gets to talk. Yeah, the short straw for sure. So I want to talk just a little bit about the study, but more about sort of how it came together. and want to thank Massachusetts for acknowledging it and for being a partner on this all the way along through years of truck work. Yeah, you can clap for that. So this work started about 13 years ago in a room that looked a lot like this. Alex and I were both at a Livable Streets Alliance talk, and he was talking about truck safety and I was talking about something else. And we had a particularly bad year of crashes in Boston. And we put together, by looking at some things that had happened in Europe, a way to maybe try something in the city of Boston at the time. What became sort of the largest experiment of its type of putting side guards on trucks at that time, and led to an ordinance that sort of changed Boston, Somerville, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, places around this country. It's important to have those places in government where you can experiment. We have a federal lab in our backyard. We had a lab at the city of Boston. We have a lab at MassDOT. You need those things in government where you can try things, where you might not know the answer before you begin that work. And so that's where this began too. Some people in this room did a great job of putting something in a piece of legislation that allowed us to do this study. And then Jacqueline said, hey, we should probably expand beyond what the legislation says and bring in all these cities and towns. We worked with 10 different municipalities. We had people climbing in and out of trucks in places all across the Commonwealth. Some of them are in this room. Thank you, Grace. And then we had people trying to use software that was new and funky. Thank you, Grace, for working on that too. And what came out of it was a study that Brendan mentioned, which has some really stark findings, right? A full 50% of those heavy-duty trucks can't see a child in a crosswalk. We are not putting vehicles on the roadway that give drivers the tool they need to make good decisions and prevent these types of crashes. So, where are we going with this? Yes, there is a report out there. Brendan did an amazing job of summarizing it. You probably should have written the opening for that report. That was much more concise than we did. But we're not stopping there, right? The work is going to Waltham and Westfield. This month, we're doing try and drives for municipal fleet owners to bring out good trucks, high vision trucks for them to get in and actually test with their fleet. We are taking it to Northampton, Worcester, Arlington, Taunton, Milton, where we're bringing it to touch of trucks and having people take some of the findings from this and actually get the experience of where are those blind zones? How do we sort of help people make better decisions when they are around those vehicles? We've taken it to TRB in Washington, D.C., and we're taking it to AASHTO to have transportation professionals actually ingest these learnings, experience it for themselves, and hopefully seed those things in their own communities. But we need your help too. This is a start. It's a report. We need your help to own this, to take the findings from it and be inspired by it and figure out where it can go here in the Commonwealth and how we get more vehicles that are safer on the roadway. So that was longer than the 2 minutes, but not as long as Fred, although I aspire for him. So thank you. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
Better light. So great. Big round of applause for all our winners so far. Thank you for all you're doing. Our last Golden Shoe winner is also our keynote speaker. We're very excited to have Worcester City Councilor Etel Haxhiaj join us. As someone who graduated from Holy Cross in Worcester 20 years ago and logged many miles on the streets and sidewalks as a distance runner, I've been eagerly following the progress and setbacks and progress as Worcester has been addressing mobility issues across the community. I wouldn't say I remember it fondly. I still remember running through Kelly Square in fall 2001 for the first time. I only did that once. I first met the councilor at the World Day of Remembrance event in Worcester in fall 2023 that Walk Bike Worcester was putting together along with Mass Bike. I'm very proud to say she's here with us today. We're also happy to present you with your own golden shoe as this evening's keynote speaker and for the work that you've done and will continue to do in the city. So if everyone could join me in welcoming Etel, thanks for being here.
I'm 4'11".
Is that better?
Wow, thank you so much, everyone. Had no idea this was happening. In fact, when Brandon called me to invite me to be the keynote speaker, I think I said, really? Me? Really? For real? 3 times. Thank you so much. This means a lot. I am very nervous. I don't know why. We had a long have had a long Tuesday council meetings, but I think that what I will do today, I will channel that little girl that you see on the screen, and potentially get emotional, because this work is very emotional and it is very hard based. So thank you so much, Brendan, and all of you for being here. Appreciate the invitation to share a few remarks with you. Appreciate and congratulations to all the Gold Shoe winners. And I want to extend my gratitude to WalkMass for your dedicated efforts and advocacy. And again, Brendan, thank you for being a friend to us and for your support. Before I get into my remarks, because this is actually a really proud moment, I want to acknowledge some of the Worcester folks that are here tonight. So I want to start with Commissioner Steve Rowley, who is, yep. And he's got a very talented team behind him in Worcester. I want to acknowledge my friend Karen Valentine Goyne, who spearheads Walk Bike Worcester, has been instrumental in advocacy for many years, has educated me on a lot of things. Alex Salcedo, the coordinator of Mass Bike Worcester and a proud resident of our city. I know Liz Miska, who might be online, is also here. Liz has educated me about visually impaired individuals and the challenges that they face. And she has blindfolded me and every elected official, almost every elected official in Worcester. And Oliver Chadwick, also one of our organizers and advocates. I'm really, truly thankful. Yeah, Worcester crew representing. For the education and support that all these tremendous individuals have had in helping me as an elected official to understand and to be a really good, loyal advocate to this work. I want to bring into the room Candace, the beautiful little girl that you see on the screen. So on April 18, 2022, Candace, who was a kindergartner at Gates Lane School, and her mother, Asha, were returning home from a beauty salon when a driver struck them while they were on a crosswalk. 5-year-old Candace fell into a coma, while her mom, Asha, sustained serious injuries. For the following month, 35 days, Candace remained on life support, and tragically on May 23rd, 30 days after the crash, Candace passed away, leaving an unimaginable loss for her family and our community, and definitely me. I think Candace passing radicalized me. I think of her often. I check with her mom almost every month, and her little brother. I think often just how 4 months into my new role as an elected councilor, I found myself comforting a grieving mother while grappling with two questions that I still do every day, every time I give remarks, and every Tuesday on the city council floor. The first question that I always ask myself is, what actions could I take in my role to prevent such tragedies in the future? And question two is, what would it require for me and all the people around me that do this work to build a stronger political and public commitment to view our streets from a human-centered lens? During Candace's vigil and a neighborhood safety walk that I organized soon after with local residents, elected city officials, and neighbors, I pledged and I committed to this family that we would enhance safety on Stafford Street. That's the street that I found out later a lot more people had lost their lives due to reckless driving. Thanks to Commissioner Rowley and his talented team, we did implement design changes that have made Stafford Street safer and more accessible for everyone who uses it. It's not easy. None of this is easy. In the year that followed, Worcester adopted Vision Zero policies and adopted public stances that frankly took a lot of advocacy and organizing. And I often think back on those challenges and setbacks we faced during the adoption process of the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, the adoption of safety zones, and declaring traffic deaths and injuries a public health crisis. Things I thought were the bare minimum policies that should not have had any opposition. But throughout my life as a community organizer, that's the background that I come from, I have challenged City Hall on many issues: climate change, homelessness, housing, wage theft, responsible development, racial justice. And while I understood that some issues, such as those that I mentioned, were going to take aggressive organizing, I really never anticipated that road safety policies would become such a contentious and difficult issue to tackle as they have been in Worcester. And so I'd like to share with you some remarks and some of my reflections and journey. And if I go a little bit above 10 minutes, you're going to forgive me. Between 2023 and 2024, Worcester experienced a series of tragic traffic crashes resulting in deaths, injuries, hospitalizations, and frankly, for me as a mom and as an elected official and as a resident, just heartbreaking every single time we got the news. A toddler sustained serious injuries, was rendered in a coma. A 13-year-old was killed by a driver while crossing the street, and a 12-year-old pedestrian was badly injured but thankfully recovered. And this doesn't include all the other hospitalizations and near misses. And tragically, last July, a young mother named Jamie Lynn Fish was killed by a driver as soon as she got out of work while crossing a street in my district, District 5. These crashes occurred on roads where fast drivers and wide lanes converged, leading to completely preventable tragedies. After each vigil and each story, we keep adding one more name to our day of remembrance that we organize with Karen, Alex, and others. It adds one more tragic name to the list of the people that we honor and we should have never lost in the first place. It really is just so sad. Councilor Haxhiaj, could you do something about how dangerous it is to walk and bike in our area? This is the question I frequently hear almost every time from concerned residents. Parents in my district are actively pushing me as their elected representative to push for safer sidewalks, protected bike lanes for their children. The seniors and residents with disabilities that I serve in my district and across the city have always talked to me about the need for more ADA compliant sidewalks and accessible pedestrian signals. Many have raised concerns and questions about the enforcement and efficacy of speed limits and police enforcement. Many have talked to me about the importance of community education. And many riders and advocates have been vocal about the need for free, reliable public transit. And with each road and fatality or injury, it felt like our roads became more dangerous for parents with strollers, children, individuals in wheelchairs, cyclists, those with visual impairments navigating on foot, and seniors crossing busy streets simply to get to a grocery store. And almost everyone I spoke to agreed. The city council must take urgent and purposeful action. And that included me. So I believed, maybe naively so, that in December of 2023, we would just move forward and adopt the two proposals by one of my colleagues to reduce the mandatory speed limit to 25 miles an hour, and my proposal to establish safety zones in areas frequented by vulnerable road users. Our constituents, and most importantly, the families of the victims, were pleading with me, were pleading with us to please take swift action. The city manager and the Department of Transportation and Mobility expressed their support, gave us the data, and told us, yes, we can act on it. I suppose I was overly optimistic in thinking that after a 5-year-old remained in a coma for 35 days, just a few months prior, and with 7 other pedestrians losing their lives on the roads of our city that year, that the city council would respond swiftly. But for the next 9 months, despite countless testimonies, including from the people who are here tonight, urging council members to prioritize these issues, my own private and public pleas to my colleagues to vote on these two proposals, no action was taken. Instead of voting on these policies, we decided, I wasn't one of the people that decided, but some people decided that we needed 5 hearings on our 5 districts and a citywide survey, even though it was already clear that lowering speed limits along with education and enforcement and creating safety zones were effective measures to decrease fatalities and injuries. So during those 9 months of delay, a toddler was struck by a car and left with a severe brain damage. A driver tragically took the life of 13-year-old Gianna Simoncini while she was crossing the street. and I grew increasingly frustrated. Following Gianna's death, I urged council to recognize traffic fatalities as a public health emergency for vulnerable road users like Gianna, Candice, and many others. I thought this was a straightforward resolution, a symbolic act to show our community that we were serious about the alarming number of children losing their lives on our roads. However, my resolution faced pushback, delays, and questions such as, why can't we consider cars as vulnerable road users? The entire summer passed without any progress on the mandatory speed limit policy, on establishing safety zone, or my request to declare traffic deaths and injuries a public health emergency. Frustrated and angry, I took my concerns to the Board of Health, asking them to maybe show some support for the speed limit declaration and the traffic fatalities a public health emergency. Thankfully, they agreed. On August 1st, just 2 months after my initial request to the Worcester City Council, the mayor and city manager on their own issued a statement recognizing traffic violence as a crisis, while my resolution sat unanswered. On the night the resolution to declare the death of children and residents a public health crisis, the night that was supposed to be voted on, it got held by a colleague without explanation. So I brought Candice's portrait with me to the Worcester City Council meeting. After a long meeting at 11:45 p.m., right before midnight struck, after a lengthy testimony from our residents, I raised Candice's portrait on my desk at City Hall and spoke into the microphone to my colleagues. This body has failed these children. I felt like I had failed our children. My words got my colleagues upset, but their feelings were not my priority, to be honest with you. As a mom and an elected official, I deeply felt the burden of what had happened that year and in years prior. I carried with me the powerful word of our organizers, the heartfelt testimonies from resident after resident who shared how their children or loved ones had been affected by reckless drivers. I kept recalling my promise to Candice's mom and dad and her little brother, and I was determined to act with urgency and with purpose. Despite public organizing, which Worcester did an amazing work, thanks to Karen, Alex, Oliver, and others, it took an additional 3 weeks for the Worcester City Council to finally vote in favor of declaring traffic violence a public health and safety emergency. And ultimately, on September 10th, 2024, a full 10 months after the initial proposals, with 1 child lost, 2 severely injured, and several residents hospitalized, the Worcester City Council voted to unanimously adopt mandatory speed limit reduction and creating safety zones. It's really good. I kept thinking to myself that I was elected to protect children, enhance the safety of my city, serve my residents, and protect those most at risk. Therefore, I couldn't understand, and frankly, it was so disheartening to witness elected officials turning life-saving initiatives such as adding protected bike lanes, reducing road widths, lowering speed limits into political issues without acknowledging the substantial public safety and health advantages they offered, and frankly, life-saving measures. So at times, it's been also frustrating to observe the skepticism and disrespect directed at our transportation experts and planners, all of whom are deeply and personally invested in this work. So organizing and political will is what needs to change. And when I think about Worcester and what it will take to transform it and all of our communities into safe, walkable, bike-friendly spaces for everyone, definitely involves more than simply implementing complete street policies, which, by the way, Worcester adopted in 2017, or labeling traffic fatalities as a public health crisis. Addressing years of poor planning that favor cars and high speeds requires serious commitment from your elected officials, city leaders, mayors, city and town councils. It will also necessitate persistent and creative organizing, educating your electeds and engaging with all community members, especially those impacted and often not at the table. And all the while understanding that shifting culture and shifting mentality takes time and a lot of commitment. Elected officials like myself, who are committed to progressive ideas and Vision Zero policies, cannot and should not tackle this challenge alone. And I say that because the organizers who came from Worcester here today have been instrumental in bringing out residents who never engaged with City Hall, but who felt passionate about these initiatives because it truly affected their lives. Walk Bike Worcester, for example, rallied residents, created lists to mobilize for the next city council meeting, provided talking points, explained things in a way that's easy to understand. Our advocates from Mass Bike Worcester and Walk Bike Worcester and others participated in community meetings. By the way, if you haven't heard about Mill Street in Worcester, it's now renamed by some folks who are unhappy as the Haxhiaj Highway. But these folks came to those community meetings where I was trying really hard with our transportation and mobility department to get buy-in from the residents. Alex over here from Mass Bike organized several rides along with Galen that talked to residents about transforming Mill Street to showcase the safety of our new bike lane. We were so committed. We rode in the heavy rain because we were so committed. We wanted to show our residents, and especially on Father's Day, that Mill Street, a new street that was transformed with a new bike lane and narrow lanes, was safe for children and families. As an elected official, I think often, what's my role in all this work? And I often think that I shouldn't be at the center of it, and I try not to. I feel like my job is to support the organizers and advocates while trusting and working with our transportation planners who meet these obstacles, I'm sure, in other places like city councils. And so if we must ask our residents and neighbors to transform the way they think about roads being shared by everyone, we must demand the same culture shift at city halls, making collaborations between departments of public works and transportation and mobility planners a requirement, not just a nice thing to have. In Worcester, this was not the case. I'm not surprised. This has been it requires a huge culture shift. But now we have a new commissioner of public works who shares in that vision, a city manager who empowered the Department of Transportation and Mobility, the Department of Public Works, the Worcester Police and fire departments to collaborate effectively instead of working in isolation and seeing their work as not interconnected. And so moving from the mindset of this is how we've always done things for 45 years to we need to approach things differently demands some courage and strong commitment from leadership at the top. It requires persistent advocacy, organizing, and all your city officials to act with a sense of urgency and personal commitment. We are quite fortunate that our manager, Eric Batista, has prioritized Vision Zero in this administration, empowering our Department of Public Works and Department of Transportation and Mobility to function as a cohesive unit. Last year, city leaders like myself were joined by urban planner Jeff Speck, Chris Dempsey to launch the Vision Zero initiatives during our State of Streets forum. And now, a year later, the Worcester City Council is actively discussing the city's first ever Vision Zero and Action Mobility plans. But I know, because I've heard conversations, that implementing these plans will actually require investing our budget dollars and our efforts to educate our community members at every turn. I know I'm giving a keynote tonight, and I got a Golden Shoe Award too, but I never viewed myself as an expert in transportation and mobility advocacy. Prior to my election, most of my professional and community organizing was concentrated on policy and advocacy at the local, state, and federal level, on behalf of our unhoused families and neighbors, defending immigrant rights, collaborating with mothers to tackle gas leaks and climate change, mentoring youth, and partnering with Zero Fare coalitions to ensure that the Worcester Regional Transit Authority remain fare-free for our residents. All the causes that I've worked on, that I continue to advocate for, are interconnected with the issues that we're discussing tonight. The families that I support in our homeless shelters, those experiencing homelessness on the street, need safe and reliable public transportation, as well as accessible routes to grocery store, parks, and schools. Individuals without homes are especially at risk for traffic crashes, since unfortunately, not just in Worcester, but statewide, our streets become their only living spaces. Our pursuit of a sustainable climate is closely tied to the carbon emissions caused by increasing vehicle use. The families that I have also served in public housing, environmental justice communities, and those with disabilities frequently live in areas that lack sidewalks, reliable public transit, and as noted in the recent report that you mentioned, the crashes and fatalities in Massachusetts are often at the center of those crashes. Our young people require safe sidewalks and protected bike lanes to skate, walk, and bike. And so improving the safety and walkability of our streets and neighborhoods is also a matter of racial and economic justice. Designs that prioritize safety, equity, sustainability benefit all communities, but especially those most marginalized from economic, public health, safety, and quality of life perspectives. That's a lens that I wish that all elected officials brought into this work. And so what do we do now to rise to meet the moment? Well, I think that elected leaders and transportation planners and all of the advocates recognize that we cannot reach our goals without the support of organizers. To bring about bold change like we are trying in Worcester requires we become a community of educators, engaging with all communities, leaning on our organizers and advocates. Investing in these relationships, from my perspective as an elected official, is absolutely key to successfully implementing projects and policies that will encounter public pushback and resistance to change. And it goes without question that engaging those communities impacted throughout the design and implementation process needs to take priority front and center. I know that the challenges posed by the federal administration are significant, and trust me, we all are feeling the anxiety on so many levels. We know that any reduction in federal transportation funding will certainly affect our local budgets and how far we can stretch our limited resources. It's been frankly disheartening, if I can just be honest, to see elected officials throughout the states, in my own city and neighborhoods, change their stances, whether it's by removing bike lanes, flag posts, or trying to undo significant improvements such as the ones that we have implemented on Mill Street. As long as I'm elected, I'm not going to let that happen. And I know that our Commissioner Rowley is committed. The issues my constituents bring up during door-to-door conversations and community meetings are often not reflected in our local budgets or the resources dedicated to transportation and mobility planning locally. This is where our advocacy as elected officials in pushing our city managers and our mayors to make sure that the concerns of our residents are reflected becomes key. More frequently, discussions in city council floors about mobility and visual zero initiatives are also framed with comments like, if you focus on pedestrians and vulnerable road users, you're neglecting drivers. There aren't enough cyclists to justify bike lanes. This all or nothing approach to safe streets policies undermines our collective efforts and vision for no more deaths, injuries, safe roads for all our neighbors. And I have to say, if you are meeting with your elected officials, make sure that you tell them they need to challenge that publicly. I'm almost done, but I just want to say that we cannot afford to regress. We simply can't. And I believe that we won't. We must connect our efforts across the state through events like this, support one another, and learn from each other's successes and challenges. Protecting the progress we've made so far is non-negotiable. I also think it's critical now more than ever to elect individuals in local and state elections who will champion safe streets and Vision Zero, who are not afraid to challenge the kinds of stuff that I mentioned on the city council floor. We need also elected leaders who see partnership with organizers and advocates like yourself as a necessary part of this work. We, the elected officials, need to lead with humility, knowing that we won't always do things right, and that each challenging conversation is an opportunity to educate, transform our residents on how to view this work, and also meet them with grace. I started this story by telling you about Candice Asari Yaboa, a little girl I never met, but who has truly become my North Star in this work. And the promise I made to her as a mom is the same promise that I made my own two boys. I will do all I can in my power, as long as I am in elected office, to make sure that no child, no resident, no matter who they are, how much money they have in their pockets, what zip code they live in, dies or is injured on our roads. And so, thank you for allowing me to tell you a little bit about Candace's story, about Worcester's story of organizing. And I want to thank you truly for the commitment that you have made to each other and to this work. Thank you.
Thanks, Etel. That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Etel, for your thoughtfulness and leadership. I can't follow that with anything. So I just want to, thank everyone for being here tonight. And, we're just asking you to help ensure that these programs and the work that we can do in places like Worcester continues to happen and is able to continue uninterrupted. Betsy was like, is there a QR code on the next slide? There is a QR code on the next slide, Betsy. That goes right to the donation form for the event tonight. We are so grateful that you're all here tonight and so grateful that you support Walk Massachusetts throughout the year. So have a wonderful evening and thank you so much for believing in Walk Massachusetts.